Last week saw violent demonstrations by the Greek and Spanish citizens who, facing budget cuts and further austerity measures by their respective governments, find themselves in a whirlpool of financial suffering with no end in the horizon. In the case of Greece, the so-called Troika will have to decide if the country has done well enough to receive another tranche of financial help. But the Greek are well behind their qualifying programme. I am with George Papandreou, the former Prime Minister of Greece. Welcome to Euronews. Now, how do you assess the current situation with Greece?
Well, first of all, I would disagree that we are behind the program. I believe that this coalition government will come up with a package which will be acceptable, with great sacrifices from the Greek people, of course, and painful sacrifices, but will be acceptable to our creditors and to our partners in the European Union. But under the deficits and the debts is this problem of need for reform, for change, to make our economy sustainable. So I have said from the very beginning, we need to have the time to make the reform, because that is what in the end will make us sustainable. Just cutting is going to be painful, and it's not going to be, in the end, give all the results necessary.
But this requires time, and time is not on your side. You see, already after 2 years there's a 30 billion euro gap. The economy is not doing well, and extra financial help by Europe has proved not helpful either. In short, governments say that Greece is no longer a liability, it's an impossibility.
I would disagree, because actually we were not given time. 2 years when I was Prime Minister is a very short time to make reform. To cut, yes, it's not. And we did something which has not been done by any other country. 6.5% budget deficit cut is a record in the Eurozone. No other country has done so much. There are many major also problems that have occurred because of the problems of the euro. Had many of the decisions we made today, these last few weeks, last few months, in Europe or the ECB, had they been taken in 2010, we never would have a contagion, and I believe strongly that we would have contained the Greek problem to a much smaller amount of money.
Here we have two problems. That is the problem of government performing properly, and it hasn't. And secondly, it's the people. There's absolutely no guarantee to the European Union's governments that by further financial help to Greece, the problem will be solved. And the Greek people can only take so much.
First of all, I agree with you that the Greek people can only take so much, and the pressure is very hard and the pain is very strong. I think that there has been stereotyping about Greece, which is wrong. Greeks, for example, are not the laziest. We work hardest in the European Union, according to OECD figures. I'll give you one very small example, but very important. Everything, every expenditure in Greece is now online. Everyone around the world can check what expenditures we have. That we did. That was one of our reforms. Small, you may say, but very crucial.
Yes, but you see, there's a difference between coming up with policies for reform and putting them into practice. You're talking about transparency. Now, a number of officials, top officials in Greece, are now under investigation for corruption. A number of those served in your party and in your government, under your management. These things European governments find difficult to digest and to come to terms with.
I certainly began through transparency, and if there are cases, they must go to the court. I don't want to judge persons, because there may be many that are innocent that are being accused, others that may be guilty. I have called for absolute transparency and justice, and we are changing this. But tell me, if you are living in a country where there is uncertainty about whether you will move to another currency, you don't invest, you don't consume, the banks don't lend, foreign investors don't come. That is why there is recession. That is why there are many difficulties. That is not only a Greek responsibility. That is very much a European responsibility.
The problem started with Greece to begin with.
The problem started in 2008 at the crash of the Wall Street, where the banking system had made terrible, fraudulent activities around the world. And that, of course, brought out some of the weak links in the euro and in many of the countries. I say we first have our own responsibility to make our country better. But we have a problem. We are not the problem, though.
Mr. Papandreu, the Troika and European governments look at hard figures and facts. They see that despite your promises, your economy is shrinking. They say, how long can we support this country? You see, they have no trust in what you say.
We have approved a lot. No other country has cut the deficit so much, but it takes time. But this is also a partnership. This is a partnership where the problems of the euro are also hitting us. It will be a tragedy for Greece if we leave, and I would say it will be a tragedy for the euro, because there will be contagion. And this will affect the whole region. It will affect the Arab Spring, it will affect our relations in the Middle East, it will affect our relations with Turkey, with Russia. We will lose much of our potency as Europeans. But it will also affect the economies of Europe and create massive unemployment and recession around the world.
In 2 years' time, which is not a long time, if they look at your performance and they come to the conclusion that you're incorrigible, then would you consider an exit package?
First of all, I am against an exit package. And I think that we have shown more than anyone else that we can make reform. We have made major changes. It's a huge effort we have made, and it's been compounded with difficulties because of the structural problems of the euro. Because you cannot have one country in the euro which is creditworthy and the other country not creditworthy. This is where Europe had to come in, not Spain alone, not Greece alone, not Portugal alone. I don't care if they are conservative or socialist. They are trying to reform their countries. And the people are making sacrifices. So let's protect them. Let's protect them.
By cutting out their pensions?
Well, that's why I'm saying we have to make the adjustment a more mild one. We had to iron this out, and we are still doing this, and much has changed in Greece. But the real problem was the problem of governance. For example, looking at the question of tax havens. There is a lack of a system which collects taxes in an efficient way. I have put on the table many times the question of tax havens, the questions of tax evasion. One of our major problems in Greece is not the average Greek tax evading. It is that many of the richer, not only in Greece but in other countries, can take their money out into tax havens. That is not a question of national law. We're talking about estimated $21 trillion in tax havens around the world. And we are looking for a few billion in Greece. So let us look at some of the systemic problems.
How do you realistically see the future of Europe, given all these various voices, differences, divisions, nationalist ideas?
Well, I think you made a very important point here. Let's, I would say, Europeanize globalization rather than having Europe become a globalized, anarchic, if you like, and splintered continent, assimilated by a globalized economy. We need to move with further integrations. I believe there is a consciousness now in Europe that this is a wider issue. There are problems in countries, but we can sit down together, solve them, and be a success as a European Union.
George Papandreou, thank you.